Welcome to this video about Expression Web, and hopefully students who are what I call the exact words type students will be comforted having looked at this video. When you look at any kind of web software, I'm going to jump down to another screen that I have here. When you're looking at any kind of software that's dealing with creating web pages such as Dreamweaver or Front Page back in the old days or Expression Web, what you have to do is get out of the habit that we all have of clicking file open to get a file. We have to do something a little different here because as we get more complex websites, and when I say complex, I'm talking about containing lots of web pages, a lot of pictures, maybe some videos and some audio files. I have a sore throat at this recording, I apologize. You want to get in the habit of using a menu called Site and not File Open. If you go back to your old ways because you don't believe what Mike says, then you'll pay the consequences of making that mistake on your own, not because of anything academic, but because of making bad choices. If you'll go to page 45 of your book, many people have inquired about this tutorial.o2 business, and I want to give you an explanation as to how this book is set up. Cengage writes their books, rather than writing chapters, they'll often write something called tutorials, each chapter being a lesson on how to create a certain website or web page with certain concepts involved with it. One chapter will involve images only, that's chapter 3. One will involve hyperlinks to click to go to other sites. One will involve, like this one, just revising text. And they'll name if you look at the bottom of page EW45, which I've captured on this particular screen, you'll see the structure that is involved with the book. At the bottom of the page, they'll have a great big folder called Tutorial 2, and it may behoove me, it may not behoove me, it may better the situation if I give you a drawing like this. Think of this great big folder called tutorial.o2, and excuse my left-handed handwriting on this screen. That's the name of the folder. You can think of it as a big house, and inside that particular folder there are 6 little folders. One is called Tutorial, which involves this whole chapter where they go very meticulously step by step with how to do the exercise. And then at the end of the chapter, around page, I think somewhere in the 90s, yeah, page 90, the pages will change to a blue color, and that's where you'll find 5 other assignments. One is called Review, and the other 4 assignments are called Cases 1, 2, 3, and 4. So there are 5 assignments in every chapter, along with the big tutorial chapter. And all these folders are contained structurally inside this tutorial.o2 folder. The next chapter will have a folder called tutorial.o3. The only assignments I'm giving you, and if you want to think of this, by the way, as tutorial 02 being like the house, and those 6 folders, case 1, case 2, case 3, case 4, review, and plain old tutorial, you can think of those as being rooms inside the house. These 6 folders, just like the rooms, are inside this big house or big folder. The only ones we'll be using in our assignments will be the tutorial small folder, and I think the only one we're using in this one, in fact I know it is the case problem 2 folder. So these are the only ones we'll need. So we need to create a folder that has 2 folders inside of it. Now, as I said in the syllabus, I'm assuming that you have some basic computer skills with files and folders. If not, then really those students should have taken the 60 class, developmental class first. We have to assume something here. We can't start from the very, very beginning of computers. This is the mouse, this is a keyboard, this is a folder, because that's not the purpose of this program. That's another course. In any event, I'm going to go in and, again, because you can do this on the desktop, I'm doing this in here to make it easier video-wise to see what I'm doing. So I'm going to right-click, and there are lots of ways to do this depending on the computer system you have, whether you have Windows 7, whether you have Windows 8, whether you have a Mac or what have you. There's a way to create a new folder. On my particular screen, the ribbon has a new folder button. More often than not, just because I want to be universal as much as possible with my varied students and their learning styles, I'm going to right-click in a white area, and I'll choose the New option, and then the word Folder. It will create a big folder, which I'm going to call as the bottom of page 45 says tutorial period 02. Now that dot normally is for an extension, doesn't hurt a thing where a folder is concerned. So I now have a folder called tutorial 2. And as you can see right now, that folder is empty. Stop the video and rewind and replay as you need to individually, depending on your learning styles and how rapidly you catch on to stuff. Everybody has a different pace. Inside this folder, which is currently empty, I want to create 2 more folders. You can do all 6 of these if you want to. It's just not necessary for Mike Sys class at the moment. So I'm going to open up this tutorial.02 folder, and I'm going to double click it. Now the way I am inside of it, can't talk this morning, is I see the word tutorial 2 inside my little path right here. I'm going to create 2 more folders. Right click, new folder. I'll call this one by the name tutorial. Click in another white area, right click. I'm going to choose new folder. And you can create as many of these as you want to. The only one I'm going to need for this exercise chapter is case 2. I don't want to give you a lot of stuff with text for this semester. I want to get you into the graphics and the fun stuff, not just all text. That would get quite boring. And you can have as many folders inside this big folder as you like. In the diagram at the bottom of page 45, there are 6 folders inside the big tutorial.02 folder. Because I'm only asking you to do 2 assignments in this chapter, you only have to create 2 folders instead of the 6 folders that are there. If you insist on creating 6 folders, have fun, knock yourself out. So there's what I have. Now you'll notice that inside each of these folders, there's some stuff that you need. There were no data files necessary in the first chapter. In this one, rather than having to type everything from scratch and make it become busy work, inside of the plain old tutorial folder, which I'll illustrate right here in the red, there's a file called ensure.html. This is a document that you'll start using in this chapter. In case 2, that folder, you will have a file that is called sports. Now, where in the world do you get these files? Well, you can get them in 2 places. You can either go to the book website and download the data files, or you can get them off the Blackboard where I have already provided them for you. Now I'm going to look at the student side of Blackboard. So you're seeing exactly the same screen that I would if I were a student. And I'm going to go over to the word help. That's where I've got everything where you need help. This video will end up in the help folder or the help link. And if you hear some church bells in the background, it's because I've got a student calling me, but I'm doing this video so you have top priority. So just enjoy the bells. Click help, and you will see, hopefully at the very top of the screen, you'll see something that says Files for Tutorial 2 and Case Study 2. One of them says Ensure, one of them says Sports, and those are the ones that you need. Notice that the endings for these are in the endings .html, not the word doc. It's not a Word document. It is a website. So when you download these, however you save stuff, and I think everybody here knows how to download and upload files, I'm going to right-click on Ensure, and I'm going to choose Save Target As. Now, it's up to you to know where you save these files. I can't do that on your computer because I'm not at your house. And if you can see this screen, it says the file name is called Ensure, and it says HTML document. Leave that alone and find where your particular folder is. I want Ensure to go inside of the tutorial folder. So I'm going to look for that, and I just happen to know, I think I happen to know where mine is, and I'm just going to dig through it. There's tutorial.02, but I want it inside the tutorial folder, so I'm digging down in there. This is something you should have learned in CIS 60 or 110. Now the reason it says no items match my search is because I don't have anything in there now. So I'll click Save, and I now have it downloaded, and there's an indicator there. You do the same thing with sports.html. In my case, right-click it, save target as. If you have trouble with this, just contact me. Now, it's going to the last place I visited, which was the tutorial folder. I don't want to go there. I want to go inside the Case 2 folder, and that's where I'm going to put sports. Again, this is just basically saving a file to the correct folder, which, again, people should have learned in Live and/or the CTS 60 or CIS 110 class. So again, here's my structure. I have tutorial.02 as the big folder, and inside that big folder are any number of folders that you want to use. The only ones I'm interested in are tutorial and case 2. So let me take a look again at my folder structure to let you see where I am with it. So here is tutorial 2, and you'll notice now, unlike the previous part of this video, there's something in there. It's got a folder and a file. That's just a little picture illustration. And if I open up tutorial.02, I'll have case 2, which has something in there, and tutorial, which has something in there. Now again, for you exact words kind of people, if you see something other than the letter E, maybe you'll see the logo for Firefox, maybe you'll see the logo for Safari. It's just indicating that that is the main default web browser that your particular computer has. As long as something is in there, and I'll open up case 2, and you'll see the word sports. You might not see it because the size is not very large. There it is right there. You'll see sports in there. If I back up and look inside tutorial 2 and I look at the tutorial folder, you'll see that Ensure is there. And that's what I want to set up. That is the way you set up these files if you want to go by what the book says. In fact, in chapter 3, you must do it this way because you will have many more files to deal with. All right, going back to the directions now, if I go into the directions, and these directions begin on page EW49. I'll scoot these up here so you can see them a little better, hopefully. And these again, and if I pick on exact words people, I don't mean that critically, but I'm saying that makes people comfortable when they're not, especially when they're not having the presence of an instructor physically in front of them. All right, so it says to open the tutorial website, it says, of course, first of all, it says, and I'm just following page 49, just as a repeated reference to you, start Expression Web. And what will happen with Expression Web sometimes if another site, if you've been working on another site at home or in class, it will try to open the site that you last visited, and it may give you an error message, especially if you have a flash drive. It might say file not found. Don't panic about that stuff. Just close whatever's there. And if your panels are all messed up, this is the panic button right now. If you end up having a screen that just looks really scary, you can always go to the panels menu and do a reset of the workspace. It's kind of like an undo button in a way, to where your Expression Web starts out in a clean look. Again, notice what it says right here in step 3. It says to choose Site and then Open Site. Remember I said a minute ago, more than a minute ago actually, I said get out of the Microsoft Word habit of choosing Open. You've got to choose Site, Open Site. And you want to look for a folder, not for a file. It's a habit that you have to break when you're dealing with web design. So, I'll go into Expression Web, which I thought I had already done. But apparently I didn't have my act together. Now, on my computer, I've got to go a little bit differently because I've got a Windows 8 on here, and thank you for bearing with me. I'm talking with you constantly in order for you not to think that I have abandoned you. So I'm going to open Expression Web. Again, refer to page, I said 49, I should have said page 48. I apologize. And when you go to page 48, and I'm flipping back and forth on screens because I'm having to make this visual where a video is concerned, on page 48, and this is actually right here, this is page EW48. Hopefully you would have found this already. You'll start Expression Web, and you'll go to, I'm going to do it again for the exact words mindset. I'll do this. I have no site open, obviously, because I have nothing on my screen. If I wanted to reset my panels, let's just say my panels were all jumbled up and I have some crazy stuff happening to them. If you click the Panels menu and choose an option that says Reset Current Workspace, the workspace just being the screen you're working with, it will go back to its original form. That's all that is. Now again, go to Site and choose Open Site. There are 3 dots after the phrase Open Site, which means there will be some more business going on. Now, the computer has no clue what site you're using, so you have to help it out. And that's what I'll do right here. So in step 4, you have to click the Browse button because it doesn't know where your folder is. So if you click the Browse button, and again, I'm going by the exact words. I'm on page 49 now, just to give you a visual reference as to where I am. On page 49, you see the Open Site menu box. You're going to click the Browse button so you can find your files and find where the Tutorial 2 folder is, and then you'll open that. Let's go real slowly with it for those who need it. I'm going to click Browse once again just to get you back to it. And and I've got to find where it's located. Now that part, ladies and gentlemen, is up to you. You have to know your structure of your computer. I often put things on the desktop because that's the quickest way I can find stuff. People just click save and open and file, and they don't have a clue where files and folders are located, and unfortunately I can't do that for you. If you have that kind of trouble, I would always save stuff to your desktop. Yes, it will clutter your screen, but you can find stuff very easily. So I'm going to locate my new folder called Tutorial 2, and the natural habit is that you're going to want to dig down in there until you see a folder, until you see a file. Don't do that. Leave the folder right there. When Tutorial 2 is staring you in the face, click the button that says Open. That will close this window, which means, hey, I've selected Tutorial.02. And don't worry about the clutter on this screen. Don't let it scare you. Click Open, and what will happen, over on the left-hand side of the screen, you will have a folder list, and it will say Tutorial 2. Remember again how the structure was initially set up. Tutorial 2 is a big folder, a big house with several rooms or several little folders inside of it. And because it has several little folders inside of it, you'll see a little plus sign to the left of the Tutorial.02 folder. And that's what step 8 is referring to at the bottom of page 49. Click the plus sign and you'll see both those folders there. So if you wanted to open up in step 9, if you want to open up the tutorial folder rather, you will see something that says ensure. Now it may say .htm instead of HTML. That's the same file. Don't worry about it. And when you open ensure.html, you'll be ready to go. This is the original document, so you don't have to type it from scratch. You'll work through the chapter, and then when you actually do save it, in this case, yes, you do go to File, Save As, but because, unless you click around like crazy, because you set this up as an open site method, it will automatically save it in the correct location, the correct folder, every single time. Now what you'll have to do to submit it to me, when you finish the assignment, you'll actually have a file when you finish this. I'll go ahead and go through this extra step. Eventually, you'll have a file that you'll save. When you go to Save As, what it will ask you to do is it will ask you to name the file instead of ensure. You'll call it ensurenew.html. Now what's going to happen there, you're going to actually see two files inside that little folder. One of them is the original, and one, the ensure new, is the one you're working on. Don't worry about the HTML and the HTML if you're into the exact words thing. It will be okay. The reason for renaming it, or for naming your new one, ensure new, is that way if you mess up, you always have the original where you can start all over. Now what will happen when you submit it to me on Blackboard, if you try to go to Blackboard and submit this, and I'm going to show you this process, if you go to Blackboard, and let's just pretend for the sake of argument that you were going to, let's say that it was finished, and you're going to send this to me. And all of you have been through this routine before, where you submit it, and let's see if I can get to your screen. Here we go. Alright, if you go to Browse My Computer, and let's say, okay, I want you to send, and you have to send the folder to me. That's the big deal. When you try to send the folder to me, I've had people say, I don't understand why I have to zip it. Well, here's the deal. Let me go in and find that folder for you. And there it is, tutorial.02. This is the submission process for Blackboard. There are my two files right there. You do not want to send them separately. It will work this time. In Chapter 3, it will blow up in your face. You've got to send the folder. The problem is if you say, oh, I'll send the tutorial folder to Mike. What happens if you click and choose Open, Windows thinks you're trying to open it. It doesn't think you're trying to submit it. And that's the reason that you have to go in, when you finish an assignment, you have to go in and zip this guy. And I've gone through the process for zipping a folder on a separate video in the help section of Blackboard. Now it probably will not let me create it right there because I'm in the middle of a Blackboard submission, but what you have to do to submit this properly to me in Blackboard at the end, you've got to go in and you've got to make a zipped version of this folder. I think it'll let me right here. I think Blackboard was just upset with me. Yeah, there's a zip version right there. Mine has a little Z there. Yours might have something different. That is the one you have to send to me. So again, in review, very quickly, if you're very much into exact words, and you'll all have to do this at some point, in Chapter 3 especially, you can get away with it now, Chapter 3 will backfire on you. You've got to create a folder for the chapter. It's always at the bottom of the opening page. This one's called tutorial.02. Create a folder, put these two subfolders, or these rooms, inside the house, tutorial, and in this case, case 2, and then go to Blackboard, and go to Help, get the appropriate files to set it up. Now, some of you may have to replay this video or take the steps very slowly. If this is not good enough for you and you still need assistance, give me a phone call, send me a message, or if you're in proximity driving of CCC, come by my office.